Hello, hi. Thank you for being here. My name is Kaitlyn Michelle, and let's talk life in esoterics. I have my rose tea here. I made it pretty strong today, but that's okay. And speaking of roses, I did bring up my last episode of possibly changing the name of this show to Wild Roses, Life in Esoterics with Kaitlyn Michelle. And I got some pretty good feedback. I am leaning towards changing the name. If anyone else wants to weigh in, I'm very open. Just let me know in whatever way you can, whichever platform you're listening on. I am sure there's a way to comment, and I will be able to see those comments. And also, while you're looking around on whichever platform, be it iTunes or Blog Talk Radio or Spotify or Spreaker or YouTube, feel free to press the like or the follow button because that lets me know that you want to hear from me. So today, I want to talk about free will and systems like astrology and numerology. And as you probably know by now, I am a certified numerologist. So this is something that I've thought about and felt like I've had to contend with quite a bit. And I think that they both coexist, and I'll get into that. However, even sometimes I feel like I am getting sucked into the fatalistic interpretations and deterministic usages of the different systems. But I find this particularly happens with astrology, at least for me. Let me know if you find this happening with you too. And then just to clarify what I mean a little bit more, it's so easy for me to say, oh man, I have my sun square midheaven. That means I will always be limited or inhibited by other people and circumstances and will never be free to do exactly what I want to bring to the world. I'm destined to a life of compromise. So first, in case you're wondering about the different aspects between planets, squares and oppositions usually denote some difficulty. They're called the hard aspects. So this is an actual aspect in my chart. And based on my own past experience, I can be tempted to just throw up my arms and accept this as is. But that is not the point, in my opinion, of learning our birth chart. Learning our birth chart. Not at all. So the way I see it, our birth charts are a representation of the template we come into the world with. And the key word here is template. So that means these are the most likely ways that we act, or the most likely scenarios for the things that we bring about in our lives when we are living unconsciously. That is why, in my opinion, it is so important to really learn who we are. And that's why I really value all of these different systems, not just numerology and astrology and human design, but also the personality tests like Myers-Briggs and the 16 personalities systems. When we know our innate patterning, then we can learn how to optimize how everything expresses in our life. So just to go back to the example that I just gave to flip around this aspect, I can shift the expression of the sun square midheaven by first shifting my thought process and the emphasis. For example, I could think, wow, I get to have the opportunity to understand my strengths and limitations through lots of trial and error, through different situations and different people. But this way, I get to master the right balance of self-assertiveness and harmony with others. And that sounds pretty cool because that means I get to figure out how to create win-win scenarios all around. And everybody is happy. And I love the sound of that. So, why am I even talking about this? This came up a couple days ago, and I happened upon a post in an astrology group. It was talking about the house that the moon is found in one's chart, which will be different in every chart, and what that means for the relationship of the person whose chart that is and their mother. So, of course, being a mom myself, I double-checked where my son's moon is placed. Unfortunately, I realized it was in the house that was the subject of this very post. And there wasn't a whole lot of good to say about it, at least in this post, regarding the mother-child relationship. So I was devastated. A part of me is still heartbroken, even though I've gained more insight since. And I know that charts are not deterministic. But still, being a loving, warm, compassionate, supportive, respectful mother, and also consciously cultivating a healthy and secure attachment with my son so he can grow up with balanced emotions and self-confidence. I mean, that's been everything I've dedicated my entire being to. So it's not an easy thing for me to grapple with. And quite frankly, I was really resisting even sharing this here. But I do think it's important that I do. So, you see, I went there, quote unquote, to the fatalistic, deterministic mindset. And it is so easy to get sucked into that. But this aspect of his chart does not actually mean that we are destined to have a fraught relationship. And the astrologer who posted this later said that it was based only on 2 data points, just 2 clients of his. So, I mean, there's that. I did a pretty lengthy online search, and quite honestly, there wasn't a whole lot I could find to really substantiate what this astrologer was saying about this being the worst placement for a moon. In fact, I actually found so many absolutely wonderful things about the moon in the 3rd house. And what I could find that relates to family is actually that he could be very close to any siblings that he has, which he doesn't have any yet, but hopefully that'll change in the future. And that he would enjoy really close bonds within the family in general. So here's the conclusion that I'm drawing about this aspect, but also all aspects. I suppose there can be a spectrum of emotions that those close family bonds can exist within. And I think, unfortunately, for this astrologer's clients, their close bonds with their mothers sound like they existed on the heavier end of the spectrum. But I don't think that means that everyone with a 3rd house moon experiences it that way. And you know what? This is why I ended up becoming a numerologist instead of an astrologer, even though I encountered and started studying astrology first. And this isn't to mean that I don't value astrology, because I do. I really do. However, it seems to me that numerology as a system comes from a place of allowing more free will in the expression of each aspect. At least that's how I feel like it can be communicated. I mean, yeah, that has to do with the delivery, right, of the information. And presumably that would be the same in astrology, but I don't think it really makes it as obvious as numerology does, because it really just says, oh, you have this planet and this planet, they're in this aspect, so you're doomed. I mean, it's not always that harsh, but that's basically what the delivery is like. So in numerology, whenever I've worked with a client, and it's been a little over a year because I stopped taking clients for a little while so I can focus on being a mom. But whenever I have worked with a client, for every single aspect of their chart that we discuss, I always bring up that there are two sides to every number. And I do this because by recognizing which side we are expressing at any given time, we can bring ourselves back into alignment. And I think it's important that I repeat that because really it is on us. We can bring ourselves back into alignment, meaning we can choose how we want any aspect to play out or even shift out completely. I mean, if we change our name, but that's another topic I can cover at another time. But essentially, this is free will. And really, no matter what, we as humans on planet Earth are blessed with free will. We may have our own innate patterns and predilections, but we can move through those and harness them and sometimes even transmute or transcend them when we understand them consciously. So I see that as really the only way that we get to wield our free will, actually, because until we know ourselves, and I think these systems contribute a great deal in that, we tend to just run around playing out these patterns blindly because we're unconscious of them. So, okay, I mean, all of this being said, I think it is a very good idea to not look at your child's chart until they are at least a few years old. I would even venture to say wait until they're preteens or teenagers. Wait a long time. Because otherwise, I just don't think it's a good idea. So, can anyone relate to this? Can anyone, for any of you parents out there, have you looked up your child's chart, whether it's in astrology, numerology, human design, or any other system? And then when you did, what was your reaction or what was your takeaway? I'm really curious because I'm sure I'm not the only one to do this. And quite honestly, I'm coming from the place of trying to understand him so that I can be a better mom to him, because then I could really address issues head on in a way that he will respond positively to. I mean, I'm trying to use it as a part of parenting, but I think, at least with astrology, let me pause for a second. I think it's a good idea to do this with a system that you will not become fatalistic about. So for me, I become very fatalistic when it comes to astrology for some reason, even though I know better. So with numerology, I've had a really wonderful time being able to understand and apply what I understand about him to the way that I parent. And I assume that's what many other parents out there would be accessing their children's charts for. So I'm curious if anyone would like to share. I'd like to hear from you. So the things that I'm into right now are really just dancing in the kitchen with my son. This morning we danced to the song Shout, among many others. But this song got him giggling so much. And I mean, it's a lot of fun. And then he's been dancing a lot by himself these days, and it's really cute. He'll even dance to the music, like the elevator music that they play when you're on hold on the phone for a really long time. He'll just start bouncing up and down and moving side to side. I love these moments. But I think that just about rounds out the show. And again, if anyone has any insights also about how you view free will in relation to astrology, numerology, human design, I would love to hear from that, because this is a topic of conversation that I think is really important to to really flesh out. So hit me with